Will the US dollar remain the world's dominant currency? Washington and Wall Street are worried about de-dollarization threat. By Joseph Adinolfi of MarketWatch.com. As of Friday, April 21, a de-dollarization mania is gripping Washington and Wall Street. Interest in the topic, according to Mark Sobel, is being driven by the looming U.S. debt ceiling battle in Congress, a China-brokered deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran, as well as Beijing's no-limits partnership with Moscow. Data show that the U.S. dollar's share of foreign currency reserves at central banks around the world has been declining slowly since the late 1990s. According to the latest data from the International Monetary Fund, the dollar's share of central bank reserves stands at 58.4%, down from roughly 70% in the late 1990s. The dollar is losing its market share as a reserve currency at a much faster rate than is commonly believed, said Stephen Jen, formerly of Morgan Stanley, and Joanna Frary, in a research note sent to their Horizon SLC Capital clients. The dollar suffered a stunning collapse in 2022 in its market share as a reserve currency, presumably due to its muscular use of sanctions, Jen and Frary said, adding that these measures had startled large reserve-holding countries. According to data from SWIFT, which facilitates transactions among banks internationally, the dollar is used in about 40% of global payments, making it the global leader. The dollar's use as an international currency benefits American households and businesses primarily through two channels: by lowering interest rates for American borrowers, and by reducing the cost of imported goods and services, Bright said in comments emailed to MarketWatch. But if there is a trade-off, it is that U.S. exports suffer, while the U.S. runs a gaping international trade deficit. Efforts by Russia and China to denominate more trade in Chinese yuan have been launched, with China specifically pushing for more oil and natural gas to be traded in its currency. Washington's fiscal and monetary policies could undermine faith in the dollar over time. The current showdown over the U.S. debt ceiling is one example, Sobel said. If we do idiotic things like default on debt and cause confidence to be lost in America, or if we excessively and unilaterally use financial sanctions, the dollar could see its role more quickly diminish, he said during a recent appearance. Still, currency analysts caution that despite Moscow and Beijing's best efforts, there is still no viable alternative to the US dollar. In his CBO report, Fried offered some examples of how policy missteps have contributed to the decline of reserve currencies past. The dominance of the Dutch florin, or guilder, ended in the late 18th century, its decline driven in part by a loss of confidence in the Bank of Amsterdam after equity from the bank was used to help finance a war against Britain. Another former global reserve currency, the British pound, started to see its influence challenged by the dollar in the 1920s. Later, the dollar emerged as the undisputed reserve currency in the 1950s, when a gold-backed dollar became the backbone of the global financial system under the Bretton Woods system after World War II. Whether a more diverse world political and economic order brings about a viable competitor to the dollar by then remains to be seen.